Today on the legal circus we bring you a tale of fraud so extreme, even Netflix would say, nah, too far-fetched. This story has all the elements of a blockbuster deception, audacity, and a plot twist that will leave you shaking your head in disbelief. Meet Margaret Bergen, the mastermind behind Ireland's most bizarre pension scam. A woman who on the surface seemed like any other middle-aged Irish lady, but beneath that exterior was a mind plotting one of the most outlandish frauds in recent history. And her co-star? A 110-year-old man, who's been dead for 30 years. Yes, you heard that right. John Bergen, her father-in-law, had passed away 3 decades ago, but that minor detail didn't stop Margaret. So, according to Margaret, her father-in-law, John Bergen, was living his best life at 110 years old. Not just living, but thriving, without a care in the world. Not only was he Ireland's oldest man, but apparently he didn't even need a district nurse. Why? Because Margaret claimed, "I'm a nurse, I've got this." She was so confident in her lie that she took on the role of caregiver herself. Because Margaret said, "I'm a nurse, I've got this." She was so convincing that no one questioned her story for years. Girl, are you also a time traveler? Because that's the only way this makes sense. The audacity of her claims was mind-boggling. When DSP officials showed up to meet Ireland's miracle centenarian, Margaret pulled out her piece de resistance. Her husband Seamus, fully clothed, lying in bed, pretending to be 110 years old. The scene was almost comical in its absurdity, and to make it convincing, they added absolutely nothing. No makeup, no props, just a man in bed. No effort. The man had shoes on under the blanket. It was as if they didn't even try to make it believable. You couldn't even take off the boots, Margaret? The lack of attention to detail was staggering. Here's the kicker. Margaret kept the silver coins given to 100-year-olds by the president every year. These coins were meant to honor the elderly, but in Margaret's hands, they became trophies of her deceit. Oh, and there was an uncashed 2,540 euros birthday check just lying around. It was as if she didn't care about covering her tracks. Because if you're going to commit fraud, why not hoard the evidence in your living room? The sheer carelessness was almost impressive. It's like robbing a bank and framing the receipt. The audacity and lack of foresight were mind-boggling. The officials were immediately suspicious when the 110-year-old looked like a 70-year-old man who had just rolled out of bed, because he literally had. The ruse was falling apart at the seams. The DSP folks had a photo of the real John Bergen and were like, yeah, this isn't adding up. The discrepancies were too glaring to ignore. Pro tip: if you're going to fake a 110-year-old, at least try some wrinkles. Maybe invest in some makeup or special effects. Maybe a cane, or, I don't know, a believable story. Anything to make the lie a bit more convincing. Margaret later admitted, "It was like digging a hole and I just couldn't stop digging." Her confession was almost as unbelievable as the scam itself. Ma'am, that's not how pensions work. That's how bad reality shows work. The entire scheme was more suited for a TV drama than real life, and frankly, this one deserves a spin-off. The story is so outrageous it's begging for a TV adaptation. And there you have it, folks. The story of a woman so committed to her fraud, she made her husband fake being a 110-year-old man. The lengths she went to were both shocking and laughable. Who needs reality TV when Ireland has real-life comedy gold? The absurdity of the situation is unmatched. Stay tuned for more courtroom clownery on the legal circus. Because in the world of law, truth is often stranger than fiction. And remember, if your alibi wears boots to bed, your scam has already failed. Until next time, keep your story straight and your boots off in bed.